second here. Thank you for joining me today on the Gospel Charge. The topic of choice today is a holy view of progression and digression. The text we are focused on today is James 1 and 9 through 11, and I'm reading from the New King James Version. Let the lowly brother glory in his exaltation, but the rich in his humiliation. Because as the flower of the field, he will pass away. For no sooner has the sun risen with a burning heat than it withers the grass, its flower falls, and its beautiful appearance perishes. So the rich man also will fade away in his pursuits. I want to bring out as a quick observation that if you notice, this 3 verses really is more about the rich man than it is the brother of lowly degree. And if you think about scripture holistically, Old Testament and New Testament texts, you'll find that in a lot of cases, when it does discuss the righteous man, it's very brief, and it then elaborates much more on the wicked man. And that is particularly because the wicked needs so much information to let them know, as well as the righteous needs to see the magnitude in which the wicked is wicked. It's so problematic that basically it calls for a lot more information. Have you ever wondered why it seems that all of these various legal systems and different statutes and codes and ordinances, you ever wonder why those things are necessary? The scripture tells us that the law is for the lawless. So you have a lot of elaboration for those who are really wicked and not for those who are righteous. Which is why the scripture gives us to see the suffering of the believers in a certain way and things of that sort. But I'll get off of that. But back to the topic. I just wanted to give that as an observation. Back to the topic. A holy view of progression and digression. Who is holy? God is holy. So essentially what we're saying is this is God's view of progression and digression. Why do I use the words progression and digression? I use it particularly to show a certain clarity from our English view of forward and backwards. To progress means to go forward in and of itself. To digress means to go backwards. So what this text is giving us is God's view, true view, on progress in our relationship with Him and digression in our relationship with Him. And watch this. Do not think this is talking about natural possessions. First of all, you got to remember, God is a spirit, and they that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth, which means that the amount of money we have, the amount of possessions we have, the amount of relationships we have cannot be a true reflection of our submission and worship to God. Because our true worship is in spirit and in truth. So what James is talking about here is not natural service, natural exercise, or as Paul would call it, the scripture would call it bodily exercise. what is being talked about here is spiritual exercise. What is being discussed here is true worship. So when he says, let the lowly brother glory in his exaltation or his progressing, being able to grow and develop and experience a sense of promotion in his faith. Let the brother of lowly degree, whether he has money or not, because that don't matter. Whether he has possessions or not, because that does not matter. Whether he has substantial relationships or not. Let the brother of low perspective, meaning go back up to verses 1 through 8, particularly more so in the 2 through 8, basically where he talks about if any man lacks wisdom. Well, the brother of lowly degree is one who is willing to operate in a mindset that basically, while I have great ability, great potential, and God has so favored me, and I do have faith, and I'm walking in faith, even when I walk in faith, I'm still not measuring up. And what I need to measure up, I need from God. In order to worship him, I need what will please him from him to please him, to worship him. So this really deals with in your faith, in your love, in your devotion, in your obedience to God through Christ. When you realize that while you are operating and that you do know is valuable and you should apply it because you know it, you still got to know that there's a point that you're going to lack. There's a point that basically you're going to see, I need his help. I need what he has because really, I can never please him. Really, I can only serve him because somebody else paid the price for me. So that's why it's even the more devastating and the picture that is painted of how serious it is when the rich, those who feel like because they do have those resources, do have those possessions, do have those relationships, and that their ability got them that, they feel that they have no need to be filled by God's Spirit and to be led continuously. What is he saying? These are just like the flower of the field. They what? Pass away. They digress. See, anything that is digressing, it is basically becoming no longer useful. We happen to say in conversations at times that I digress, which means I get away from that. Or I'm digressing to get on this to get away from that. So regardless, what you're saying is what I was dealing with, I am getting away from it. Pass away. So what's being conveyed here is the rich man operates in faith. Now, let's give a view of the rich man. In the scripture, we understand where the Lord is dealing with his servants and he's giving rewards. You have the one that is the worker of iniquity, and then you have the one that is the good and faithful servant. Well, guess what? The worker of iniquity had faith. He was walking by it. He had actions consistent with what he believed and all that kind of stuff. And he was using the name of the Lord to create influence for him. But the one that was a good and faithful servant was good because he submitted to the goodness of God. He submitted to the spirit leading of God, the very reasoning of God, not his own spin on it. The good and faithful slave, servant. Well, what happens is he tells the worker of iniquity, depart. And he tells the good and faithful to come unto me, to enter into his joy. What is being conveyed there? When it says, so the rich man also will fade away in his pursuits, that means that he was pursuing, he was doing, believing he was glorifying God. But what happened? He found out at the end that he wasn't. So God's view, the holy and righteous view of our progression and our faith toward him, and our digression and our faith toward him, or more so away from him, is to be that in order to progress, we must know no matter how well we're doing, how much we're putting our zeal and our ambition and our submission and our commitment, that we still have need to be filled by him. And that is the brother of lowly perspective. That is the lowly brother. But at any point, we find ourselves believing that we got enough to make it. We saved enough, as some they used to say when I was growing up. We saved enough. We got to watch out then. We got to be concerned. So the Lord bless you. Join us again here on the Gospel Charge. Until next time, I say to you, seek the peace of God and pursue it with everything in you. Then, as you pursue it, let it rule in your heart.